Hello everyone, I am back on Instagram TV and I would like to talk to you about one of my favorite spring treats this time of year. So I introduce you to spruce. This is spruce. So there are lots of different types of spruce. This is one of them. And the part of the plant that is used is the tips. So the green, there's some geese out in nature today. I'm actually here at Jericho Park, so this is just off 4th Avenue in Vancouver, and so these trees can be found all throughout the city. You don't have to go too deep into the woods. So this is the spruce tip. So you can tell that it's the tip because it is a different tone of green. So it's a much brighter green than the rest of the mature plant, and this is the new growth. So this only comes out in the spring, and that's the best time to take or to harvest, the only time to harvest these tips. Once this matures, it's going to turn into one of these branches, and then the tree will continue growing. And so that's important to note, because when you harvest these, you take the tip of it to the green piece, and then now this won't turn into a branch. So it's really important that when you harvest them, you're being respectful to the tree, not to take too much from one tree, because then you're going to impede the tree's ability to mature and to grow. So just take a couple from each tree and from multiple trees, so you're not taking too much from one. And so what do we do with this? Now I can eat it, and it's delicious. So it has a really good citrusy taste. And that citrusy taste and partly is due to the vitamin C content. So this is really, really high and rich in vitamin C. This is a really good alternative because vitamin C is very hard to find in the stores nowadays. So wild food can also provide us with a good amount of vitamin C. Also has lots of flavonoids, and flavonoids are antioxidant and anti-inflammatory for our body. So this is a very nutritive, healing tree. So yeah, I could just eat it, which is one of my favorite ways of taking spruce tips. I could sprinkle this on salads, which makes a nice citrusy taste. I could make a tea from it, so I could put this in some hot water, and then that can help to pull out the vitamin C and the flavonoids and the nice citrusy taste. Another really fun way of making this into food is pickling them. So you can actually pickle these spruce tips, and that makes a really delicious side dish to your meals. So how do we know when we have spruce? How can we identify a spruce tree? So the way, or the best resource that I use to identify spruce is this book here, so the Vancouver Tree Book. And what I love about this is that it's also a field guide. So it gives maps all throughout the city. If you live in Vancouver, I'm going to tell you where to find these trees. So that's really helpful. And then it's also going to give some tips on how to identify the trees. So I'm going to read out some tips here on how to identify the spruce tree, so this tree here. So tip number 1, the needles are stiff and sharp. Let's check it out. So these needles are very stiff, they're very tough, and they are very sharp, so they're pointed at the ends. So check. Tip number 2, the needles are 4-sided and can be rolled between the fingers. Let's see. So I'm going to pick one of the, I just got a bunch of pollen. I'm going to pick one of the needles, and it is 4-sided. So compared to fir trees are flat usually. And so it's just 2-sided, but spruce trees are 4-sided, so it makes it a little bit more round, and I'm able to roll it between my fingers. Whereas if this was a fir tree, it would be hard to roll because it's flat. So that is, yeah, check. And what else here? So also when you're identifying trees, you want to look at the bark and the cones, not just the branches. So the bark here is usually very thin and scaly. So that's a good comparison to something like a Douglas fir, where the bark is really chunky. And then the cones hang downwards. Usually cones are quite high up in the tree, but if you look up high and it still has cones on it, these cones are going to be hanging down and have thin papery scales. So I trust that this is spruce mainly because of the pines, or the needles of the spruce tree. And also you can test by tasting the tips, and if it has that nice citrusy taste, then you've found spruce. So I wish you happy harvesting. Get out and see if you can find spruce trees, and then you can use that Vancouver tree book as a guidance. The author is David Tracy. So again, a really great resource if you want to learn more about your local trees. And that's it for now. Bye.